They're scared of our raw power.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Alien-a-Thon, where we discuss aliens. I am Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
And thank you to our patrons, Abigail, the first breaker of chains, mother of dragons, and
Logan,
the full metal patron. And thank you to Four Horsemen Comics and Gaming, who is sponsoring the Alien-a-Thon. You can visit them at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, and the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And say hello to Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas, who is the most cowardly of all the colonial Marines. He's always the last one in and the first one out, and he never stays frosty.
Game over, man. Game over.
This movie had so many quotes that I knew, but I didn't know it was from Aliens. I didn't know it was from Aliens.
Okay.
That, Stay Frosty, and they only come out at they mostly come out at night. Mostly,
yeah. Yeah, that's Aliens.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen it.
James Cameron affects pop culture.
He does. He does. Our history with aliens. I had never seen it. I knew a lot about it, turns out, but I had never seen it until just now. I thought this was the first Alien movie that I liked on the first viewing.
My dad watched it with me probably a dozen or so times as he bought me Aliens toys.
Yeah, I can see you as a child enjoying this movie a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Okay, so background. Alien did really well, but it took 7 years for them to make a sequel.
Yeah.
Apparently there was a lack of, according to the wiki page, there was a lack of enthusiasm on the part of 20th Century Fox to make a sequel.
20th Century Fox making bad financial decisions? No way.
Well, every studio. And also, they had a lot of management changeovers, apparently, which always affects like projects like that, so that kind of makes sense. But this film was written and directed by James Cameron, who you may know from The Terminator, Terminator 2, Titanic, Avatar, Avatar 2, and his classic film, Piranha 2, The Spawning.
Yeah, it's the best Piranha movie.
I've seen 0 Piranha movies. He was an inexperienced director at the time, but he got the job writing and directing Aliens because of the scripts that he wrote for Terminator and Rambo First Blood Part 2. This film had a budget of $18.5 million, and it grossed between $131.1 and $183.3 million. The divide depends on whether you count the theater share, which was $42.5 million. So just a wee bit of a successful movie.
Yeah.
And it took quite a few years before Alien 3 happened as well, which wasn't quite as successful. But we'll talk about that next week.
The only story I know about Aliens, like off the cuff I told you last week, is when James Cameron pitched this to the studio, he just wrote alien on a whiteboard and then an S and then turned the S into money signs.
Well, they made the money.
Yeah. And it's spawned a successful toy franchise that I can't shut the fuck up about.
Yes, this entry in the Alien franchise is what's credited with expanding the scope and getting additional backstories, and this is where merchandise started: toys, video games, comic books. Apparently that didn't so much happen with when Alien came out, but Aliens is really credited with all that stuff.
I've been thinking about buying some of the collections of the Aliens comics.
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible 3-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
Alright, structure and themes. So, Alien, I would say, is a sci-fi horror film.
Mm-hmm.
This, I would say, is a sci-fi action film.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah, with it has I guess what you might call horror drapings, but that's not the focus. The focus is, look at these cool action stars, here's their guns, here's the impossible enemy. Mm-hmm. It's like Terminator. You could say that, especially the first Terminator has some horror drapings, kind of like a slasher, but it's mostly focused on sci-fi and the cool guns and blowing shit up.
So as I was watching this, I was thinking of a chart in my head, with Alien being one extreme. Alien is the socialists, and then Rambo on the other extreme being the fascists.
Okay.
And then you come one left in from Rambo, and you get Terminator, and then you come one right in from Alien, and you get Aliens.
Okay.
And then Terminator is kind of right in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of where I saw this sci-fi spectrum with horror on the far left and action on the far right, and Aliens kind of being sort of towards the middle, leaning left.
Because it still has some of the things that are kind of horrifying to think about. The aliens' design, you got the how they can blend into the environment, the chest bursting.
And I kind of had Terminator in the middle, and then Predator one over, and then Rambo on the far right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had this movie described to me, I may have been a little hesitant going in, because action is probably my least, straight action, the Expendables kind of Jason Statham and Sylvester Stallone kind of movies. That's probably my least favorite genre of film. I don't hate it, but that's probably the type of movie I enjoy watching the least. And even as a kid, I remember watching Terminator 2 and Predator as a kid, and those even lean towards sci-fi, and I didn't even like those movies as a kid. So if you would have described this to me as it's Alien, but with machine guns.
You know how I would have pitched it to you to get you to watch it? It's Alien, but with stormtroopers.
Yeah, that would have done it.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, my Koontz is that it leans more into action than the horror. However, I wouldn't change that, because the story, the movie wouldn't work. There's no rewriting this movie to be more like Alien and it making sense. It is the movie that it is.
I think the only way you could possibly do it, it would also require major rewrite and reshoots.
Yeah.
Is you'd have the Marines picked off slower.
Yeah.
And they don't get shootout scenes.
Yeah, and that's
it'd be 100% stealth kills for the aliens.
Yeah, but kind of despite my preferences of genre, I really like this movie.
Yeah.
Even though I don't generally like movies where it's guys blowing things apart with machine guns, the rest of it was so good that didn't really bother me.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't really change anything, but, just thoughts on shifting genres.
Makes sense.
Okay, themes, motherhood.
Yeah, it's a big theme.
One with, you see the alien queen, and laying of the eggs, and her and Ripley go to head, and then also with Ripley finding out that her daughter has died, and then finding Newt, and Newt kind of becoming her surrogate daughter.
Yeah, she gets her cub and wolf arc.
Yeah, and then Alien 3 just shits in your face.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Fuck Alien 3.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. Remember when I told you that I liked 2 of the movies?
Yeah, I was so pissed. So fucking pissed. I knew, because I was researching, I knew that little girl wasn't in Alien 3.
Yeah.
But I figured, like, it started with them, like, back on Earth, and, like, she adopted Newt, and Newt was back at her house.
Yeah, she's fine.
Yeah, she's fine. I wanted Newt and Jonesy to meet, and she'd, like, buy a house for Newt and Jonesy, and then Ripley would go off and have her adventures, and Newt and Jonesy would be safe back at the house. No.
That's how I would have written it.
Fuck that movie. All right, we're talking about the good movie now. We'll talk about the bad movie later. Okay, motherhood. Also masculinity and femininity.
Yeah.
It plays like there's a lot of examples in this movie of women being strong, Ripley, Vasquez, the alien queen, and men being weak. The Burke, who's the Weyland-Yutani guy, the Gorman, who's the colonial marine lieutenant who can't make decisions in the field.
Yeah.
Like, but it's not.
He's no Hicks.
It's not in your face about it like a lot of other properties are.
And that's why I like this movie and don't like those other properties as much, as because this knows how to tell that story without going, "Hey, audience." Hey, it trusts you enough to observe it.
Mm-hmm. So you see women doing, like, quote unquote traditionally male things.
Yeah.
Like they give Vasquez has the biggest gun, i.e., she has the biggest penis.
Yeah, I fucking love Vasquez.
Yeah. And then war and trauma. Fucking Newt is, like, totally shell shocked. Are there other themes that...
No, I think those are, like, the biggest ones.
Do you think this theme of sex is toned down, like, compared to the original movie?
Yeah. Mostly because even, like, the derelict ship in the first movie, they showed them going, like, through these doorways that were obviously shaped like vulvas. That's kind of cut out. Like, the aliens still have because the alien design is what it is. Mm-hmm. The alien queen kind of has this. I've heard that her head is supposed to be like the female reproductive side. I don't really see it. I'm like, oh, maybe, but it's not as I was gonna say subtle. It's not as
obvious.
Yeah, obvious. It's not as intense with it.
Yeah,
like
whereas the first movie is like beating you over the head with phallic imagery and...
Yeah, this one, it has like some more obvious dialogue about them like impregnating you. Like they use that term a lot. Mm-hmm. But it's because Ripley knows what she's dealing with now. That's what it's doing.
Right.
It's not like this weird sort of traumatic insemination by an alien species anymore because she understands what's going on, which takes away from the horror once you know what's going on.
Yeah. And I have some thoughts on that, but we'll save that for scary shit.
Yeah.
I think. This is the first... There's obviously a lot more world building. There is a lot of world building in the first one, but this one, it's less subtle and it's more obvious because you get to see Ripley in the world. Mm-hmm. You get to see her interacting with regular people.
How do you like her tribunal, her corporate meeting?
I don't know. Like, I feel like the first, like, 20-ish minutes is probably the weakest part of the movie.
We're gonna take away your license.
I almost thought it would have been more effective if we just, like, saw her wake up in the hospital and it's... Burke is there and he's like, hey, tell me what you went through. Okay, well, this is what's going on that planet and we need you to go back.
I like, I do like when they first find Ripley... they're like, well, there goes our salvage.
Yeah,
it's a great callback.
It is, yeah.
So
they used xenomorph for the first time,
mm-hmm.
which I was like, ooh, I know what that is.
I do not understand.
I do. I understood that reference.
I couldn't remember if that line was actually ever used in the movie, so...
Yeah, it's used in this one, and it's used in Alien 3.
Yeah.
I think both were used one time, I think.
And then they call it a bug hunt, which was something that they used in the comics a lot. They called them the bugs a lot in the comics.
The bugs. The bergs.
Which I guess kind of makes sense with, like, the ant colony.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
2 characters. And this one has a lot more characters. I don't think we're going to talk about every single one. But I've got some of the big ones listed here. Of course, we're going to start with Alien Ripley. Ellen Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver. Thoughts on Miss Weaver?
I would call her Mommy.
That Sigourney Weaver is a sexy woman.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what else to say.
Do you see any significant changes in the character from the first movie to the second movie?
I think she has a good arc in this movie. She's definitely not as we need to follow procedure.
Yeah.
She's, let's just nuke the planet from orbit and leave. Which makes sense.
Well, the only time I'm ever advocating for a nuclear strike. I'm like, yes, that is the answer.
Which, honestly, that was the answer.
It was.
They just weren't careful enough.
Yeah.
She gets this nice slow arc because she definitely doesn't want to go. Mm-hmm. So you get to see her go from having these repetitive nightmares to telling Newt it's okay to dream at the end.
Yeah.
So
that's a nice little thing.
Yeah. Because, you got the beginning, she's having nightmares. In the middle, she's talking to Newt, who doesn't want to have nightmares. And then at the end, they're both okay sleeping.
Yeah.
Which is a nice little journey.
But they're not really okay sleeping.
I mean...
Fuck you, Alien 3.
I'll bring this up now. There's a reason why whenever they make media for Alien now, especially video games, they almost always choose to ignore Alien 3. And they either just go, only Alien happened, or only up to Aliens happened. And those are the 2 paths they keep trying to take.
Yeah, I can see that. We'll try not to bitch about Alien 3 for the Aliens episode. Yeah, she did a great job. I enjoy her a lot. I like her relationship with the Marines and the slow progress of her gaining trust with them, and them realizing that she has her shit together and she knows what's going on more so than their own officers do, and how she slowly becomes the lead, or her and Hicks together slowly become the leaders of the Marine group.
Yeah.
And they go from not trusting her at all to and making fun of her to willing to die for her by the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more than a sci-fi action movie. It has some pretty good character arcs and some good growth for Ripley herself, and a really touching relationship between her and our next character, Rebecca, aka Newt, who's played by Carrie Henn, who this was her first film, and then she decided not to pursue acting after making Aliens. And she has only 2 credits on IMDb. She did this movie, and she had a voice acting role in an animated film in 2020.
Huh.
What do you think of her? We've talked a lot about child actors on this podcast.
I think Newt is better in the theatrical cut. You watched it on our right? Mm. Okay, that's the director's cut. It has a lot more of Newt, and it has a lot more of her screaming in it.
Okay.
A lot of that's cut out in the theatrical cut.
Okay.
So you mostly get the subdued, already traumatized,
shell-shocked little girl. Yeah.
And I think she does that really well. Mm-hmm. I don't like little kids screaming. I think that's hard to make convincing in any scenario, so I don't envy that.
But it also wouldn't be convincing if she didn't
scream. Yeah. But she does shell-shocked really well. She does, it sounds mean when I say she's best when she's not talking, but there is acting involved in body language and looks on the face.
Yeah.
And she convinced me that she was this just terrified little girl who had managed to just run for however many days or weeks she was alone. I can't remember. They give you an exact number.
Yeah,
I don't
really remember.
It's more than 7 days because that's how long they have to wait for a rescue team to show up.
I want to say it was 17.
And Ripley says something like she survived double that all by herself.
17 was either the number of days that she had been by herself, or it was the possible number of days. I think Ripley asked, how long until you don't report in do they send a team? And I think they said 17 days.
Okay, so a while. She was by herself for a while.
For a long time, yeah. Longer than any little girl should have survived against the monsters.
Coming out of her shell did really good.
Mm-hmm.
I found the scream annoying, but like, what are you gonna do? A kid will scream.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
exactly. That's my opinion on it. This is probably my first cub and wolf adoptive parent story that I ever got to experience. So I have a soft spot for it.
No, I think it's a good one.
Yeah.
I think it would have gotten an honorable mention for me in our pre-show we did recently. Moving on, I think she did a decent job. I agree with you. I think her strongest parts were when she was traumatized and Ripley was trying to coax her out of her shell.
Yeah.
But it's just a cute little story.
I liked watching her put on the Marine helmet.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah.
I wish it had like a Boba Fett style
no visor.
Yeah, to okay, moving on. Paul Reiser, who plays Carter J. Bishop, who is the Weyland-Yutani person. And I had a funny little arc with this guy.
Oh, yeah.
So where they're going to the planet and the Marines all wake up and they're all just acting like idiots, and Ripley's like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm stuck here with these idiots. They annoyed me so much that I was thinking to myself, man, the corporate guy is a better character than these idiots. And they're so fucking annoying. And then as the movie went on, I'm like, he's a bad man.
Yeah, he's the corporate guy.
I work for a corporation. I know. I'm not like this guy.
Yeah. You're not a corporate lawyer.
No, but I work with corporate lawyers. I talked to one today. I work with a lot of them.
Fun.
Yeah, he's pretty slimy. He's got as far as slimy 80s corporate villains, he's got a rank up there pretty high.
Back in the 1980s, I was the toast of Wall Street. I was having whiskey with Boski and cookies with Milken. But then, I was diagnosed with terminal bonitis.
Bonitis? Pfft, that's a funny name for a horrible disease.
I couldn't believe it when he let the face huggers out when they were sleeping. I was like, dude, what the fuck? You're so bad. How do you rationalize that at all?
He was seeing his payday.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Turned the camera off as they're screaming for help.
That was so bad. What a douche muffin.
He gets his.
Yeah, he does. I thought I was expecting something a little more gruesome.
Yeah, he doesn't get it too bad.
No, I mean, I don't imagine he was alive for very long, so.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, he didn't make it out. I mean, but nobody did except for Ripley. Oh, fucking alien. Alright, and I guess Bishop. Not really. Okay, let's talk about Bishop. Lance Henriksen, who plays Bishop, the good android.
As a kid, I really liked Bishop. The Bishop toy, if he squeezed his legs, it would blow his arms off.
That's cool.
Yeah, so. He didn't look anything like Lance Henriksen, the toy didn't. I mean, most of them didn't. I think the one that looked the closest was Ripley.
A lot don't.
Because I didn't see the first Alien until that was my third Alien movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get what her deal was with androids, or that he was a robot even until the end. I kept forgetting that a lot as a kid.
Because all you see is he nicks his finger.
And he bleeds white, yeah.
He bleeds white, and that's all you get to know that he's really an android.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I liked them showing that not all artificial intelligence is necessarily evil in this universe. Though I suppose had Bishop been given direct order from Weyland-Yutani Corporation to work against Ripley to retrieve the alien, that's what he would have done, I assume. But
maybe you do get a little indication of maybe he has a little bit more free range than you might imagine, because he talks at one point about how like standard procedure would be to bring the specimens back, but then he just listens to Ripley when she's like, no, you destroy those things when you're done with them. So unless like he was lying about it, or which I mean, I guess these things are fully capable of doing.
Yes.
So
it's hard to say, like, and like AI depiction in pop culture, it ranges. There's a pretty high range, and even within like a certain franchise, how AI is depicted isn't always consistent.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to say just based on the few movies that I've seen.
How'd you like seeing him get ripped in half?
It was sad.
Yeah.
But I was like, there's no way 4 people are going to survive this shit. Something else has got to happen. Oh, there you go.
I mean, even ripped in half, he still saved it.
Yeah.
So
4 people survived. But
yeah, in quotation marks.
Yeah.
We're going to be bitching about this all night.
Fucking Alien 3. Bullshit.
The Colonial Marines. Who's your favorite Colonial Marine before we go down the list?
I don't know that I particularly have a favorite. I think I just kind of like them as a group, because I don't think any one of them is really that much of a character on their own. But
I always loved Hudson. Yeah, game over.
Game over, man, game over.
Because he goes from being like pretending to be this Billy badass guy to freaking out.
He's the first one to bitch out. He's like, I'm done, man. We're dead, man. It's fucking game over.
But then, I mean, he still does what he needs to up until he gets dragged away into the darkness.
Yeah, they have to kind of slap him to get him to get his shit together a couple times. But I mean, he never tries to run away.
I do like that. One of the reasons he makes it out of like that initial encounter is because when they take all his ammo away, he just pulls out a shotgun and goes, I can just keep this around just in case. And I'm like, I mean, smart.
Yeah. I don't think that's standard issue, but...
Yeah, I guess, that doesn't count as like the kind of ammunition that they were afraid of setting the nuke off.
Or the sergeant just didn't see him.
Because you see, like, Vasquez was still hiding ammo anyway, so...
Yeah.
But,
I know, like, in a military setting, you're supposed to give an order without explaining it, and the soldiers are supposed to follow the order without asking why. But I feel like that was a good situation where they should have explained why we don't want you shooting this ammunition.
Yeah.
Like, take 5 seconds to explain why.
Honestly, at that point, as soon as Ripley pointed that out, I've been like, okay, everyone needs to back out of there, and we need to reevaluate how we're going to go in.
Yeah, I mean, that...
Instead of keep going with just flamethrowers.
Yeah. That would have made more sense.
But, I mean, that's me being like a backseat military expert, I guess, for an Alien movie.
And I have no idea. I'm just saying that, like, obviously, they're not going to understand and they're going to be pissed, and it would only take 5 seconds to explain.
Also, all the ones that didn't listen are the ones who lived.
That is true.
So I'm also like...
That is true.
So at the same time that Ripley pointed something super important out, I mean, they're also the ones who got away.
It also adds to Lieutenant Gorman's character. Like, his whole thing is that, like, when it comes to it, he can't handle the responsibility of command, and he can't give effective orders in the field. And it made a more experienced commander may have taken 5 seconds to, hey guys, if you fire those guns, you might set off nukes. So don't do that. So maybe that makes sense.
One of the scenes I remember most as a kid is the scene where it's like all of their like point of view cameras just going off. As a kid, that terrified me. Just the idea of people getting picked off one at a time.
Yeah.
And then until everyone's flatlining. That exact scene is pretty much ripped off scene for scene in Predator 2.
It's also ripped off in the Lost World Jurassic Park and Jurassic World.
Yeah. It's a good scene, though.
Yeah, no, it works. It works in all of those movies.
It's a good way to convey, hey, how fucked people are.
Yeah.
But I always, like, looking back, I think it's funny that Aliens, Alien 2, and Predator 2 use the exact same scene to convey like how fucked the people are.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Okay, so Hudson was played by Bill Paxton, and we just mentioned Gorman, who's played by William Hope. Kind of our quote-unquote main Marine is Corporal Dwayne Hicks, who's played by Michael Biehn. What do you think of Hicks?
I like Hicks.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, he's general guy who learns he was wrong, but still, does his best archetype.
Yeah, and he's like the not really Ripley love interest, but you can see that
if you want to ship it, there's enough there.
Yeah, there's enough there to ship it. More than what fucking happens in Alien 3.
Yeah, we'll get there. I like Vasquez,
played by Jeanette Goldstein.
I think she's very funny.
Yep, her and Hudson both like really annoyed the shit out of me like in the first part of the movie, but grew to like both of them as it went on.
I like their banter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can see how it might be a little abrasive at first, but
yeah, for sure. And it also definitely wouldn't have bothered me as a kid.
Yeah.
But as an adult, it bothers me a lot. Living up in growing up in the Toby Keith, let's shove a boot up their ass and drop a nuke on their head society, that type of character always grates on me, but but getting to see their like real human reactions in like a real dangerous situation always makes you empathize more.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gorman, more on Gorman, he's not bad like Burke, but you're like, oh, maybe you're making some bad decisions, but he also gets a little bit of an arc after he wakes up from being injured, and he kind of just lets Hicks and Ripley run the show. Mm-hmm. And then when Vasquez is injured in the vent, he goes back after her and makes a stand there. He doesn't like leave her to die or anything. So.
Yeah.
So good on him.
Yeah, good. I mean, everyone had their growth. Mm-hmm. I mean, most of it led to dead.
Yeah.
To being dead.
Yeah.
So.
The only other character that I can remember their name, Apone, who was the sergeant. Mm-hmm. And I guess he was just like your funny black drill sergeant guy.
I also had his toy. So.
Yeah. Did his legs blow apart when you squeezed him?
No. He wore like a backwards red hat for some reason.
Because he was black.
As the action figures didn't look too much like their movie counter. They looked more like instead of like uniformed Marines, it looked like a bunch of mercenaries who like threw their shit together. Mm. I think Hicks and Hudson and Vasquez were the ones that looked like most military. Mm-hmm. And okay, so the black guy though is the one that I remember he wore a yellow shirt and a red backwards hat, and that's what I remember of the toy. And he had like a metal thing on his arm. They all had like these metal things on their arm, I guess, to like hold the big heavy machine guns.
Did he have like a boom box and like and a basketball? Come on.
No, Ripley came with a Mother's Day card. I'm kidding.
All right.
I'll kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all! I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
As we're transitioning into scary shit, I'm going to ask our typical question, then I want to talk about the aliens themselves. Is this movie scary?
No, it's an action movie with horror drapings.
Yeah, there wasn't really anything effective about it for me. I guess imagining the little girl there by herself is kind of scary, but it doesn't really focus on, it doesn't like try to make that scary for you. It's more focusing on how good she is because she was able to survive the situation. Yeah, it's definitely...
You could say there's tension, but that's not the same thing as horror.
Of the 5 Alien movies I've seen, this is probably the least scary of the 5 I've seen.
Yeah. And to be fair, that's not what his main accomplishment, his goal is. If
you look at James Cameron's like list, it's funny because when you say his name, the first movie I think of is always Titanic, he's more of a science fiction director because like outside of Titanic, like all his big things are sci-fi.
You know, the original trailer for Titanic was pitched as an action movie until they realized how much people were into the love story.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like that would have been that great.
Yeah, like it showed like because James Cameron was known as like this fast-paced director, so that's how they were trying to pitch it. Oh, look at him running away from the Arctic water, and there's him fighting the husband. I'll have to pull up that trailer sometime because it's like very heavily focused on the very little action that's in the movie, because that's how they thought they had to sell it.
I'm not like a huge fan of Titanic, but there's no for me there's no arguing that it's like a competently made film.
Yeah.
And if you're a fan of that type of film, it's obviously a great one.
Yeah, no, it's a historical drama.
Yeah. I mean, like,
love story.
Yeah, it's fine, but it's never going to be like, well, I don't know, maybe it will be, but for me personally, it's not like a huge movie.
I don't care about it.
Yeah.
I had to see it way too many times.
I've only seen it twice.
I had 5 sisters, so
I watched it once when it came out, and then I watched it once again in high school, and I haven't seen it since high school. So
yeah, I'm just like,
I could honestly probably do with another viewing of it. Okay. So the aliens. What are your thoughts on the xenomorphs themselves?
Okay, so kind of a mixed bag. I love the effects. I love watching them blow up. That shit's all cool. But there's a bunch of stuff like I told you before that was going to start to take away from the horror. Like, the more you explain something, the less scary it gets. Oh, where did these eggs come from? Were they laid by a bigger one? Well, what would have happened if they would have had a gun with them the first time? Oh, it turns out they would have just killed it because they pop like balloons.
Yeah.
And that's, for what this movie is, that's fine. But when you're talking about, like, the franchise as a whole and the horror that was the xenomorph, the more you want to give people like a little bit of answers so that it's not just made up nonsense. You want there to be like rules, but the more that you explain as you go, and each movie is subsequently going to tell you more and show you more, so that the idea of the xenomorph, it's like a vampire now. It's not scary anymore.
I haven't seen Prometheus in years.
Yeah,
but I feel like Prometheus walks back on that a little bit because. Maybe it's just because it's the first one I saw, but I feel like it doesn't give you a lot about the aliens themselves.
What Prometheus does is tells you, like how they found that alien ship, and there's now you know what that thing was that was driving the spaceship. Oh, you know what it was carrying and how the eggs were originally formed. It just it adds to the pile. Now it gives you more new mysteries, and I haven't seen Covenant to see if they answer those mysteries, which I hope they don't.
I don't remember. I remember very little of Covenant, so I've only seen it once. So we'll have. I'm looking forward to that episode because I haven't seen it literally since the day it came out in theaters.
Same.
I thought you haven't seen it at all.
Well, Prometheus.
I was talking about
Covenant. Yeah, I haven't seen Covenant at all.
I saw Prometheus the day it came out, and then I rewatched it going to see Covenant.
Okay, so I haven't seen Covenant at all. Covenant, I'm waiting until the week we're reviewing it.
I like Prometheus the second time. I don't know if I'm going to like it now that I've seen all these other movies, but
we'll find out.
We'll see. Okay.
It doesn't kill Newt, so
no. Fuck. I can't imagine I'm going to dislike it more than Alien 3. But also Alien 3 has Ripley. But also I think that's like Ripley's weakest movie so far.
We'll get there.
I basically have the same opinion. I love the practical effects, but I'm just not a fan of how easily killed all the aliens are in this film.
Yeah.
But I also understand this is just the type of movie that it is.
And they are saying they're using like these high-powered, like exploding ammunition rounds. Like they go out of their way to say that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like pistols are popping them. Do those have exploding rounds in them? Maybe. The shotgun was working.
Yeah.
Those are obviously slugs.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, that makes me, it would still suck to be around one of those things, especially like you shoot it, it bleeds on you, you also die.
Which they did make good use of that. There were repercussions for shooting them when you were too close.
Yeah.
Which I liked that.
But it's terrifying in the sense that like a horde of those things is really scary. Like when you're outnumbered.
Yep.
But now when you think, okay, in Alien 1, if they literally would have had a pistol, they would have been fine.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you think about those other movies retroactively.
Well, so far, I would say that of these first 3 movies, each one makes the previous movie worse.
Yeah.
Which I don't like.
Yeah.
But if you look at each one in a vacuum, except for Alien 3,
yeah,
like they're still good.
Yeah. And that's how you kind of have to look at these. And you also, and this movie also gave me so much that I love from my childhood.
Yeah.
It spawned a lot of great video games, a lot of bad video games too, but also a lot of good ones. So.
Obviously, there's a big tone shift from the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
It has, even though it's longer, it has a much faster pacing, which I think, like we said in the last episode, that's a preference thing. Some people like those like long drawn out shots, and some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, this is an action movie as opposed to a horror movie, where that kind of slower pacing is more common and works better in a horror movie as opposed to an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think if they tried to do that same dry, dour tone that the first movie has with the type of movie they're trying to make here, it would have worked. So even though I prefer the tone of the first movie, I think the tone they go with for this movie works for the story that they're trying to tell.
Yeah, I agree.
And I still really like this movie despite it making choices that I probably wouldn't have made if I were in that position.
Mm-hmm.
I would have, if I were James Cameron, I probably would have tried to do the same thing the first movie does and ended up making a worse movie overall because of it.
Kiss me, fat boy.
Kiss me, fat boy. Let's pretend the Horror of Babylon is a segment on The Man Show. Which Ripley underwear shot do you prefer? I gotta go with the OG.
Yeah, the OG. But I think it's you're referencing The Man Show. That's so fucking funny.
The Man Show, I haven't watched it as an adult, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't like it as an adult.
I'm probably the last one to use this phrase. It's sort of problematic.
yeah, I'm sure. But as a kid, I got to watch it so infrequently that it was like
a treat,
like a dirty little treat.
Yeah. OG panty shots.
Yeah, I also agree. I totally agree. I don't even know if I'm going to keep that in, but so.
What were they called? The juggies on trampolines at the end?
Yeah.
I remember being on the cusp of puberty and saying that and going, probably shouldn't be watching this.
Probably shouldn't.
Are my parents asleep?
For better or for worse, my parents did not regulate what I watched. They were fine with pretty much whatever.
Oh my god, are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
Alright, Kings and Koontz. Oh, I didn't even think of a king. What is my king? Shit. I guess my king is Ripley and Newt.
Mm-hmm.
Their relationship is just so sweet. And it's just like this sweet little sugary story in the middle of all this horror and death and guns blowing people to pieces, and it's just the icing on the cake. What is your king?
The mech showdown.
Yeah, that is.
Get away
sweet.
from her, you bitch!
That is pretty sweet.
I like how heavy it feels. It actually felt like she was driving a forklift.
Yeah, but she pulls it up with by walking. But I know it's like hydraulic assisted. It's a unique little thing.
Have you ever seen the movie Carnosaur?
No.
Okay. At the end of the movie, a guy fights a T-Rex with a forklift, so...
Cool.
It's either Connoisseur or Connoisseur 2. I can't remember which one.
Are you a connoisseur of those types of movies?
Yeah. I actually love them in like that. They're kind of cheesy, fun sort of way. I want to read the book because the book was actually written before Jurassic Park, but Jurassic Park is more well-known, and they're both kind of the exact same book.
There is this novel, it's recent, it came out in the last 5 years or so. I forget what it's called, but it's something I wanted to talk us maybe doing. The premise is Jurassic Park, if Jurassic Park was made secretly by the Communist Party of China. I'll look. I can't remember.
Yeah, I kind of want to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I'll look it up later.
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called, but I see it on Audible all the time. I'm like, I want to read that. That sounds good.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Koontz. My Koontz is just the differences. It's more of an action movie, the tone shift, but at the same time, I acknowledge that's just a preference thing on my part, and all the choices that James Cameron made work for the movie. And if he made the movie I wanted him to make, it probably would have been a worse movie.
Yeah.
So, what is your Koontz?
Newt screaming. It's not like it's an example of bad acting. I just still found it annoying.
It didn't ever register with me, so I'll have to, next time I watch, I'll have to listen for it.
Yeah.
Like, the thing that your Koontz from Pet Sematary was, like, the noise that Gage makes after Lewis stabs him. But, like, that's never registered. I actually have, like, no idea what you're talking about. So I keep...
Yeah, it's just the way he, like, screams there. It cracks me up every time.
So I keep meaning to just put it on and, like, watch it just for what you're...
It's probably just me, but it's just that specific way they make that noise to me sounds goofy.
What sticks out in my head about that scene was actually what was Ron's King, where he just says, "No fair."
Yeah, that part's fine. That part's great. I love watching him wrestle with the puppets.
Okay, rankings. We actually forgot to do our ranking for Alien, so we'll just do it here. You'll get a 2-for-1 this week.
Ooh, a 2-for-1er.
And I'll just go ahead and do both mine. Alien is my number 10, and Aliens is my number 13.
Okay.
And then I believe you already told me that Alien is your number 2?
It's my number 3 now.
It's your
Because
number 3.
Aliens.
Okay.
I love Aliens.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I think they're both excellent movies. I just think I prefer horror movies over action movies. That's all.
Yeah.
And I don't really have, like... I guess it's because as I tend to, like, kind of drift out during action sequences unless they're, like, very fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So just, like, gunfighting, even as a kid, like I told you, I didn't like Predator as a kid. I didn't like Terminator 2 as a kid. I just had trouble paying attention to those kinds of movies. It's just a preference thing. I don't really... But yeah, okay, so Aliens is your number 2, and Alien is your number 3. Alien is my number 10, and Aliens is my number 13. So overall, pretty high ranking.
Yeah.
Pretty high ranking so far. Don't expect that to continue in our next Alien-a-Thon movie episode thing.
Yeah.
Okay, for Zombie Day, this is something we discussed on our Near Dark episode. Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, and Jeanette Goldstein were all recruited to work together on the film Near Dark because they were recommended to the director of Near Dark by James Cameron because he worked with all 3 of them in Aliens. They went from a pretty good movie to a not so good movie, but it's still cool to see them all work together.
Yeah.
Yeah. For homework, we're actually going to play a game.
A game?
A game. Aliens is the 7th highest grossing film from 1986.
Okay.
Meaning there are 6 movies that made more money than Aliens. In front of you, you have an ad for Spicy Jack Links.
Oh, that looks so good.
In front of you, you have a list of all theatrical films released in 1986.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 7 guesses to guess the 6 movies that made more money than Aliens. You get 1 point if you guess a movie correctly. You get 2 points if you guess the movie and its position on the list correctly. And I have 1 hint for you. Of the 6 movies that made more money than Aliens, I have seen 5 of them.
Wow.
And I didn't watch any of them to be able to say I've naturally seen 5 of them.
Top Gun is number 1.
Top Gun is number 1.
Yeah.
All right, Top Gun is the highest grossing film in 1986 with $176.8 million. And that is the one I haven't seen. all the other movies I've seen. Most of them multiple times.
I want to say Ferris Bueller's Days Off. I cannot say that name. Yeah, I can't say his name. Day Off at number 2.
That is incorrect. It is not on the list at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I probably would have guessed that as well.
Okay, that surprises me.
You're thinking, right, because that's a movie I've seen 100 times. It's definitely a favorite of mine. So you're in the ballpark.
Let's go with maybe Karate Kid. I know Karate Kid 1 was popular.
Enough that they did like 4 more movies.
And a Netflix series. Okay, I'm going to go with Karate Kid 2.
Do you have a guess for the position on the list?
I want to say number 3.
It is on the list.
Okay.
However, it is number 4. The Karate Kid Part 2. Number 4, or fourth highest grossing film of 1986, took in $115.1 million.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. How many did they? The Karate Kid Part 2, Part 3, the next Karate Kid, and then the remake. And so yeah, there are 5 of those, plus the series. Which I still need to watch.
I haven't seen a lot of these. Crocodile Dundee has to be on there somewhere.
What is your guess for position?
I'll go with number 2.
It is number 2.
Aha!
So you have 5 points so far. Crocodile Dundee was the second highest grossing film in 1986 with $174.8 million. Which I haven't seen those movies since I was a kid. So I guess I would really need to rewatch them to form an opinion, but it just kind of blows my mind that they made that much money.
I mean, I guess that does explain why they kept making more.
They made 3 of them, yeah.
Yeah. I want to say Labyrinth, but I know it's not on there. I just love Labyrinth.
Labyrinth is great.
Yeah. I'm probably thinking about it because I'm trying to think about movies I've seen. And I like garbage. Let's go with Highlander. Is Highlander on the list?
No.
Okay, there's another one gone.
So you've made 5 guesses, so you have 2 left.
2 left.
Of the 3 movies remaining, 1 I'm pretty positive you've seen, 1 you may have seen, and then I would be very surprised if you've seen the 3rd one. But then again, I also didn't think
fuck, Star Trek's on this list. Star Trek
4, The Voyage Home. What's the position?
3.
It is the 5th highest grossing film of 1986 with $109.6 million.
Okay.
That's the one I was pretty sure you've seen. So you have 1 more guess. You can't get the whole list, but you can get all but 1. You still need the 3rd highest grossing film and the 6th highest grossing film. One of these I think you maybe have seen, and the other one I would be very surprised if you've seen it or even have heard of it. I'll give you a hint. One of them is a comedy, and I wouldn't guess that it's a comedic actor that you have watched a lot of. Maybe, who knows?
Okay.
It's not somebody we've ever discussed.
I'm drawing a blank, so I'm gonna be taking a shot in the dark here.
I'm surprised you haven't said Howard the Duck yet as a
as a joke. I'll go with The Fly because I've seen The Fly.
No, I know. Fly's not on the list. So number 7 is of course Aliens.
Yeah.
Number 6 is with $91.3 million is Back to School.
Yeah, I never seen it.
It's a comedy starring Rodney Dangerfield. Also stars a very young Robert Downey Jr. And Terry Farrell as the love interest, and Terry Farrell is a Dax from Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
Number 5 is Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home. Number 4 is The Karate Kid Part 2. Number 3, and this is the one that I thought maybe you have seen, $138.5 million, the war film classic starring Charlie Sheen, Willem Dafoe, and Tom Barrett, Platoon.
Yeah, never seen it.
Oh, this is a great movie. Great movie. So you haven't seen Platoon or Apocalypse Now. Gotta watch those. And then, of course, number 2 is Crocodile Dundee, and number 1 is Top Gun. So
okay.
All right, you got...
I did better than the last time we did this.
Yeah, you 2, 4, 6, 7, You got 7 points out of a possible 12.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Not too bad. All right, question for the listeners. What do you prefer? Sci-fi horror Alien or sci-fi action Aliens? Or do you love both? Or do you hate both? Or is Alien 3 the one true Alien film?
There's got to be someone out there that thinks that.
I'm sure there is, yeah.
It's not the director.
I really wanted to like it.
Just to be spiteful.
Just to be like snarky.
Yeah.
But I can't. I just can't.
I knew you wouldn't be able to for very specific reasons, but I didn't want to say.
There are a couple things I like about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few movies that have nothing in them. But.
Yeah. But just overall, no. Like, I'd be surprised if I ever watch that movie again. Mm-hmm. Unless it's like for like an Alien marathon or something.
Yeah.
Okay. For further reading, Terminator, Predator.
Are we watching the Predator movies as part of the Alien-a-Thon?
Just the 2 AVPs.
Okay.
Maybe Ron will have the Predator-a-thon. I do want to watch Prey, and I wouldn't mind rewatching the original Predator because I was like, I don't know, I was like 11 or 12 when I saw it. I haven't seen it since.
I like Predator, Predator 2, and Prey.
Mm-hmm.
Predators isn't bad.
There's only like 4 of those movies, right?
Or
5.
There's Predator, Predator 2,
the Adrian Brody one,
Predators, The Predator, Prey.
Okay, so there's 5. All right. So 7 with the AVP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it actually has 1 less movie than Alien.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's another franchise that they keep trying to get to make work, and I'm like, I think you got it to work a couple. I like Prey. I think Prey's the one movie that found a way to make it work again.
Yeah, but it sounds like that was kind of like a 1 in a million kind of flash in a pan kind of thing.
I think the movie that you can continue, you could probably get it to work like Prey maybe 1 or 2 more times by changing the setting and the time period. And a lot of people are like, Shogunate, feudal Japan Predator.
It sounds like they're just trying to do what Assassin's Creed did with the Predator, which I guess could be fine.
Yeah, it could be fine.
Until you make like 20 games and nobody cares anymore. That's not true. People still like those games.
I do not know why, but I'm glad they make people happy.
I haven't played one since the pirate one. That was the last one I played.
I haven't played one since the first one.
I really liked Assassin's Creed 3, the American Revolution one.
Mm-hmm.
Because it showed like some darker, like, that was the first time I was like, oh, maybe George Washington wasn't all cracked up. All that he was cracked up to be, and that made me like look up and learn more about George Washington and shit he did. I'm like, ooh. So
he should have became Emperor Washington.
They tried to make him king. There was a movement for that, but he was rightfully so. He's like, guys, that's kind of what we just were like, no with.
Yeah.
So, I'll tell you what, people. I'll compromise. I won't be king, but we'll still have slaves. We won't let women vote, and just everything else. So that's the compromise I'll meet.
Hey, sometimes you got to meet people in the middle, right?
You gotta meet. Life is about compromise. You got to meet them halfway.
Progress is a pendulum.
Yeah. In his time, you wouldn't have been able to vote because you don't own property. And I only recently would have been able to vote because I'm only recently a property owner. So, all right. Upcoming on the Horror of Babylon this Sunday is our episode on the TNT remake of the Salem's Lot miniseries. This is the one with Andre Braugher and Rob Lowe and Donald Sutherland. We had a good time with that episode.
Yeah.
And then the next Sunday, August 13th, we are wrapping up Salem's Lot coverage with the first season of the television series Chapelwaits, starring Adrian Brody and
Whisper Talking.
I actually looked up an interview with him today about Chapelwaite. That is completely him acting. He doesn't talk like that at all.
Okay, so it is just, that's a choice.
Yeah, that is a choice.
Or the directing.
Because I've seen him in other movies, and I'm like, he doesn't sound like that. So I thought maybe he like has been smoking for 20 years and like destroyed his vocal box or something. Nope. He just that's either what he chose to do or what the director has him do.
He's trying to be Solid Snake.
Yeah.
Jerusalem's Lot.
Jerusalem Lot too. For bonus episodes, next week we are continuing the Alien-a-Thon with episode 3 with Alien 3, which
cubed.
I'm going to have a beer
Cube steak.
for that episode. Yeah, cube steak. Oh, don't say steak. And then the following week, Thursday, August 17th, we're taking a break from the Alien-a-Thon to return to the Treehouse of Horror of Babylon with the first Simpsons parody of Frankenstein, If I Only Had a Brain. And thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker Change, Mother of Ripley, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron. And thank you to Four Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall, Morgantown, West Virginia, or the Mall Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Or you can visit their online store, which is currently upheld by a server aboard the derelict Nostromo. Ryan, they blew up the Nostromo. Shut up, other Ryan. Shut up. Say hello. When you go in, make sure to say hello to the proprietor, Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas.
And hug his face.
And hug his face. And impregnate him through the mouth.
I keep trying to do that.
I keep trying to impregnate him through the mouth.
It's not working.
He keeps fighting me. Thank you for watching Aliens, and thank you for re-watching Aliens and recording with me.
It was a good time.
It was indeed. All right, everybody, thanks for listening. Stay tuned for our socials and stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.